the heart chakra. There really isn't much to say because we don't want to intellectualize this, but the heart chakra is in the center of all of the chakras. We have 3 below, 3 above. It's that central channel where that Kundalini energy oscillates throughout our body. And here is where the energy melts away. Being able to forgive, it is being able to let go and find balance and love. This is going to be a more relaxed class, but it's about tuning into how your body feels. Today on your mat, you are allowing yourself to be. Whatever that is. If you just want to sit here, if you want to lie down and cry, the heart doesn't judge. We just need to allow ourselves to be sometimes, whatever that is, and hold space for it. Hold it until it gets better, until it goes away. So place both hands on your heart and breathe into this space. Really visualize the breath moving right into your heart, letting it light up and glow a little bit more. And bring a gentle smile to your face. You can think of nice memories if you wish. Bring it into your consciousness. Be thankful for that experience. Or you can choose to think of something lovely, like flowers, or fresh fruit, sunshine, sunsets, good music. And conjure up those yummy feelings. Just let it fill your heart right now and breathe through it. Feel the joy circulating throughout your whole body, from your heart, emanating from your heart, transcending your body, filling the energy in the room. Now send all that love back into your heart and feel it even fuller. Sparkling even more with joy and happiness and love. Now send it out to somebody you love. Send it out to everybody in the world. Just visualize this golden, pink, shining light all from your heart to every being on earth. Loving kindness. And say with me, may you be happy, may you be at peace, may you find love. May you be happy, may you be at peace, may you find love. So kindness is love actualized. So maybe today you're gonna do a little act of kindness for somebody. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the yoga. Namaste. We will begin in a wide-legged child's pose. Feel free to sit on a block if that's more comfortable for you, or to pad up your knees. And begin with your arms forward in front of you, stretching out the shoulders, moving from side to side. Just being gentle as you transition to different postures today. It's all about tenderness and noticing how you feel. Really tending to your feelings, both physical, mental, emotional, all of that. Begin walking your hands side to side. Close your eyes so that you can experience this movement more deeply. Very much focusing on the stretch as you move. Lengthening out from the spine, your hips as the anchor. Moving at your own pace, maybe holding a stretch a little bit longer in a certain area. Bringing some elevation to your movement by lifting the chest. As you make it to one side, you can also play around with internally twisting your chest towards your midline as you open up your side body, lifting your back and side area in a sort of cat position to the sky. So arching and curving your spine to begin stretching that side body. Then walking over to the other side and repeating this movement. You can even lift your hips off your heels as you're doing this in a sort of twisted side cat. I'm lowering my hips onto my heels once more and getting really low now for my child's pose, wandering hands in my environment with eyes closed. Feeling into the heart, we're opening the side body of the heart, the back of the heart, as well as the front of the heart, which we'll continue throughout this practice. So where the body moves, and where the body opens, so does the area, this heart chakra. We're opening our heart chakra to allow more love into our lives, to feel worthy and deserving of it. So open up your hands to the sky as you make your way to one side of this child's pose, internally twisting to the sky. So if you're on your left-hand side, you're going to lift your right arm to the sky. If you're resting on your right forearm, you're going to open your left arm to the sky. And you're activating your core here as well, because that's what's allowing this safe twist to occur. So squeezing those belly muscles as you twist. Let's slowly lift our chest to sit up on our heels and clasp your fingers behind you or using a strap to begin to stretch the shoulders. So as you breathe in, you're going to lift your shoulders up and back, and then breathing out, you'll drop your shoulders down and pull from your strap or your hands. Now we're going to widen our grip on the strap and begin with overhead shoulder circles. You may also substitute with simple rolling of your shoulders back and forth. Pause with your hands overhead, then begin tilting over to one side, resting your hand on the floor and the other in the air, pulling on the strap to intensify this side bend. Take a deep breath in, squeeze your core to lift yourself up to neutral, and then breathe out, bending over to the other side. Return to neutral spine. You may clasp your hands behind you, opening the shoulders one more time before we move on to camel pose. There are two ways to get into this pose. First, from the seated position, move your knees and ankles a little bit farther out. Shins are parallel, hips width apart. Place your hands on your heels. On your next breath in, squeeze your core, your booty, and your thighs to lift your hips off your heels and begin arching your chest back, lengthening from the spine and lifting your heart up to the sky. You may also start in a kneeling position, pressing your hips and thighs forward and lengthening from your spine as you lean back, one hand at a time grabbing the heels or the ankle or a block. And maybe just lifting one arm overhead at a time. Softly and tenderly breathe into your heart space and breathe out. Go ahead and switch sides if you are lifting one arm, using your core to lift you into neutral and then reaching with the other arm onto the block. Place both hands now on your lower back to support your spine. Squeeze your core and lift yourself up into a neutral spine. We'll place our hands on the mat as we lower our hips down to find child's pose for a brief moment. Reconnecting with our breath, noticing how our body feels as we're beginning to wake it up a little bit more. We're going to transition into downward dog. No rush here. Slowly lift up your hips to the sky, straightening the legs as you roll over your toes, beginning to pedal out the feet, relaxing the shoulders and releasing the neck. Maybe nodding yes and no, turning your head side to side. Then walk your hands and your feet to the edges of the mat. Bend your knees for a wide-legged downward dog. Bringing your chest towards your thighs, taking a deep breath in and deep breath out, sinking deeper into downward dog. Your fingers are spread wide, rooted into the ground, turning your triceps in. Imagine a string attached to your tailbone, lifting you up to the sky. Lower your hips as if you're moving into a plank. Then step that right foot forward in between your hands, and you're on the ball of your back foot. Find your strong legs rooted into the ground. Then begin to clasp your fingers behind you, lifting and rotating from the shoulders. Your arms are reaching for the sky, and your head lowers. Your chest is almost leaning on your thigh for humble warrior. Option here to lower that left knee onto a block and to use straps to modify this pose. With control and active use of your abdomen and back muscles, lift yourself into crescent lunge. Drop your back foot at a 45-degree angle, align heel to arch, and straighten that front leg. Option to walk your feet closer to one another. Reach your right hand as far as you can forward and down, resting on your foot, a shin, or a block. Then open up your shoulders, reaching the left arm to the sky, stacking the shoulders on top of one another. Lower your left arm to your hip and begin to add a slight bend to both knees. Pivoting over your heels to parallel the feet, you're now facing the side of the mat. And release your spine for a wide-legged forward fold. Micro bend in both knees, shaking side to side, grasping both elbows. Try resting your hands on the nape of your neck. This gentle pressure will lengthen the cervical spine. Then place your hands on the mat, pivot over the left heel to turn that foot to the back of the mat, and then you're coming up onto the ball of your right back foot. Clasp your hands behind you, release your neck, and find humble warrior on the left-hand side. Really embody this pose as the humble servant, the person who is offering devotion and love and kindness towards someone else out of the goodness of their heart. It is about humility, compassion, and forgiveness. Being a human comes with making mistakes and figuring things out, so we have to lend some compassion towards ourselves and some love. Using your core, lift your chest up into crescent lunge, dropping the back heel so the foot is at a 45-degree angle. Begin to straighten the front leg, and we'll make our way into triangle on the other side. Engage the muscles in both legs, then reaching from the hips with your left arm as far as you can forward, dropping your hand onto the mat, your shin, or a block, then lifting the right arm up to the sky, opening the chest. Gaze can be down or up towards your right hand. Being mindful of our knees, adding a slight micro bend if that helps. Once again, use your core to lift your chest into a neutral position. We'll parallel the feet and we'll fall into a wide-legged forward fold one more time with a slight bend in the knees, releasing the low back. We're going to move into lateral squats now. I like to angle my right foot out slightly and place a blanket under the heel as I sink my hips lower. The knee is in the direction of your toes, and then your left foot is flexed, pointing up. Try to keep a flat back as you squat lower, and a slight micro bend in that left knee. We'll be lifting our hips now to switch over to the other side, removing that blanket and placing it under the left heel. Squat as low as you can, opening up the hips, placing a block under that right thigh if it needs support, maybe to sit on or used for your hands to lift your chest higher. Play around with your props to see what works best for you. We're flexing that right foot up to the sky. And lift your hips up into a wide-legged forward fold. Remove the blanket from the heel, and slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, lift yourself up into standing. Grab a bolster, pillows, blankets, blocks, and we'll move into reclined hero. You can also just do reclined hero fully on your mat. So we'll be sitting our hips back in between our feet. Our knees are parallel and hips width apart. Then position 1 is leaning back just onto your hands with your fingers facing towards your hips. This will begin to open up the psoas muscle, or if you want to lower onto your forearms for a little bit of a deeper stretch. If you have a block placed in the middle of your spine or along your shoulders, you can go ahead and arch your back over that, lifting your arms overhead, really opening up that heart space, breathing into the heart space and breathing out. If the block is used to support your spine, we also want to be mindful of our neck, maybe placing a blanket under the head to prevent hyperextension. Coming out of this pose slowly, we'll first make our way onto our forearms, then onto our hands, lifting from the core, and then neutral spine. Angle your blocks near the edges of your mat so that they line up with your shoulders. And find your way onto your knees, lowering your chest down so that your shoulders perfectly line up, place on top of those blocks. Take a deep breath in and breathe out, releasing your chest, relaxing. Just a note, if you do feel numbness, tingling, or pain in any posture, that's a signal to come out of it. So always stay within your safe limits. Place your hands wide in line with your chest, and we're going to begin to do a dynamic cobra by lifting off from our fingertips, arching our back, squeezing our core, opening up the shoulders and broadening the chest as we lift up and then lifting down. Lengthen from the low back and rotate your chest in circular motions to really lubricate the spine. Then place both your forearms parallel on the mat with your shoulders on top of your elbows, peeling the chest up for Sphinx, releasing the arms. Know the muscles are probably feeling a little bit of fire. So just shaking it out a bit. We'll bend our knees now and sway our ankles side to side for a nice little massage of our low back. Finding bow pose, we'll reach our hands behind us and grasp the ankles or the tops of our feet. Squeezing your core, you're going to lift your chest and your thighs simultaneously off the mat. Your hands are pressing into your ankles and your feet are pushing equal weight back into your hands to lift yourself higher. With control, lower yourself down onto the mat and release, taking a couple breaths here to relax. Stretch your left arm out to the side of you with palm facing the ground. We're going to roll over onto that shoulder, adjust your feet as necessary, and then lift the right arm up to the sky, opening the chest and squeezing the shoulder blades together. Bring your consciousness towards that left shoulder and how it feels in this stretch. Option to take your block on the highest level and to press your right hand into it to open up your shoulders even more and broaden the chest. To switch sides, we'll first roll onto our belly, then extend our right arm out to the side of us, palm facing the ground. rolling onto that shoulder and opening the left side of our chest by either putting it on a block or reaching for the sky. I like to keep both my knees bent in this position. Focus on your breathing, really breathing into that left side of your heart space, which your heart is actually located on the left side of your body. So breathing as much oxygen as you can into that area, opening our internal lotus bud, our consciousness, the consciousness found within the heart. Then slowly shimmy your way back onto your belly. Doesn't have to be pretty, it's all about being playful actually. Digging into our inner child with our heart chakra and finding more play. And lift your hips up, bending the knees and then straightening the legs for downward facing dog. And in downward dog, begin to flex your shoulders and your back and create some micro circles here, isolating that chest area, moving in opposite directions. Then slowly bring knees to mat, lower hips onto heels for child's pose. All right, friends, we have 2 minutes of free time. Whatever your body is calling, go ahead and do that pose. Or if you want to stay in child's pose, go for it. I'm going to go for wheel pose. And to prepare, we're going to do reverse tabletop. So if you want to follow along with me, let's go. So fingertips facing heels, shoulders on top of wrists, knees on top of ankles. We're going to lift our hips up to the sky, a straight line from our shoulders to our knees, squeezing our core. Then lower back down. Going to sit in a comfortable seated position and stretch out our inner forearms by reversing the direction of our fingertips and pressing our wrists down towards the mat. Transitioning now to wrist circles in both directions. All right, we'll find our way lying flat on the ground, stepping the feet a few inches from your sits bones. Your feet and knees are hips width apart. And you're going to plant your hands by your shoulders with your fingers pointed towards your feet. Now lifting with our core, we're going to slightly move ourselves up onto the top of our head. And then, as if there's a string pulling us from our belly button, we're going to squeeze our core to lift our hips up to the sky. Straighten your arms and bring your elbows in so that they're parallel. Keep breathing here and squeeze your thighs to keep your legs strong as you move your chest forward, trying to bring the shoulders over the wrists. Then slowly lower down, first onto your head, then your shoulders, then vertebrae by vertebrae until your sits bones reach the mat, bringing the knees into the chest and giving yourself a nice hug because that's a pretty intense pose. And if you were doing any other pose, you also deserve all the love because you made it here onto your mat. And there's nothing stronger sometimes than having a soft heart and being vulnerable and showing kindness. We'll move into happy baby. So bending the knees and reaching for our feet, our toes, or the shins. We're going to be drawing the knees into our armpits, but trying to keep the low back on the mat. So opening up from the hips. And play around with this as well. Rocking back and forth. One more time, bringing your knees into chest, really giving yourself a nice hug and a kiss on the knees, because why not? And then we'll fall back into our final resting pose of Shavasana, so laying fully flat on the mat. We'll be staying here for a little bit, so I want you to get super cozy. Grab a blanket and place it over your entire body, a pillow under your head, a blanket under the knees. If you have crystals, maybe rose quartz or amethyst, go ahead and grab that. And we're going to begin to speak to our heart. If you have a crystal, you can place it on your heart space. Otherwise, start with some gentle tapping over your heart, kind of like a knocking, saying hello, welcoming yourself, becoming acquainted with your heart. Do this for as long as you wish. Then place one hand on the top portion of your heart and one at the bottom portion. You can possibly feel your heartbeat through your hands. Maybe you can feel it more intensely now in your body as you bring your consciousness to that area. Visualizing your heart melt and soften, become all squishy, cozy, warm. This is good to place your hand on your heart skin to skin. Your hands are healing. They have magic within them. So even just holding your heart can do so much for you. Holding the heart of a friend, of someone you love, with so much care and gentleness, because the heart is so precious and fragile, like porcelain or a diamond. Just hold your heart and feel whatever is coming up. Just feel it and let it be. Let it be here. If it's emotion, sensation, images, thoughts, hold yourself here. You've got this. Imagine a blue lotus bud at the center of your heart. And as you get closer and closer to this lotus, it's opening and flowering. And at the center of it is this infinite universe, a realm of pure bliss, unconditional joy, your natural state, your childlike state. And bring to consciousness now an earliest memory of your childhood, a pleasant one. And if you're having difficulty with this, create a pleasant memory now of you and your inner child. Take this inner child wherever they want to go. Maybe to an amusement park, or the beach, or for some ice cream. And I'll leave you now with this pleasant memory, and I want you to feel it in your heart. Slowly begin to wake up your body from Shavasana in a way that's most comfortable to you. And you've completed the heart chakra. I hope your heart feels full with unconditional joy. And we'll meet again on the mat for our next class in the Kundalini series, the throat chakra. But for now, I leave you with love, light, and all the good vibes. Bye.